Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I hope you're all having a splendid day in quarantine. So I know I'm like 7 years late to this party, but in today's video, I'm going to be unboxing and giving a 2020 perspective on the Apple iPhone 5C. So about 2 weeks ago, a brand new iPhone 5C showed up at my house from eBay. Now on the listing, it said brand new, sealed in box. However, I was unfortunately scammed and received a reseal. When I opened it up, it had some oddities going about it. But nevertheless, I unboxed it anyway and used it for a week to see how this 7-year-old misfit phone has held up over time. So, now that I've had my fair share of torture, I can now reflect and see how this 7-year-old misfit phone holds up in 2020.
But before we get to the unboxing, first a little history lesson. Now, the iPhone 5C was released all the way back in 2013 along with the 5S, and it was basically just an iPhone 5 with a really funky refresh. Instead of keeping last year's model around as the budget option, Apple just decided to give the 5 a refresh and release two phones at the same time. It shared the same processor, same screen and same camera, and the only differences were a slightly larger battery and an improved front-facing camera, as well as the build being slightly thicker, and of course, the plastic replacing the aluminium. The iPhone 5C was one of Apple's most controversial phones, and while there were no actual issues with the phone, it received a lot of backlash for many reasons. One was because some people believed that a plastic phone was not like Apple at all, and had a much less premium design than the 5, which was made from aluminium. Another factor that ruined this phone was the fact that it was just $100 US less than the 5S, which was the flagship at the time and was much more technologically advanced, as well as sporting better build materials, so for most people it wasn't even worth sparing that $100 not to go the full stretch. As the 5C had kept the 5's internals, it also had the same processor, the A6, instead of the much faster new A7 on the iPhone 5S. Now this wasn't very significant at the time, as that processor was only a year old, but because of this it stuck on iOS 10 while the 5S was supported all the way until iOS 12, 2 versions and 2 years longer.
With all these factors added up, the iPhone 5C was quick to become a failure, with only 24 million units sold, while the iPhone 5S got 52 million sales, more than half of that of the 5C.
Some say that this was one of Apple's biggest mistakes, and that the iPhone SE 1st and 2nd gen, 10R and 11 were basically this phone done the right way. Unlike the 5C however, these phones still have the premium build quality and the same processors and cameras of their more expensive counterparts, while still maintaining a reasonable price, the complete opposite of what the 5C did. The only new thing about this phone was that there were more colors to choose from, and it was a nice change and appealed to a lot of people who wanted a quirkier phone. Another strange quirk about this phone is the cases that Apple themselves made for it. I have one here, and as you can see it's not the most generic looking case with its rows of holes in the back. You could mix and match them with the different color combinations, but most people agreed that it looked absolutely absurd, which is fair, but at least it was different from everything else on the market at that time. The 32 and 16GB versions were no longer sold by Apple after the release of the iPhone 6 and only kept around a measly 8GB model, but as anyone who has owned a phone before knows, this is a ridiculously tiny amount of space even for 2013. In fact, the operating system took about half of the onboard storage, so you could only download a handful of content at most. It was officially discontinued on September 9th, 2015, and officially stopped being supported by iOS updates on July 19th, 2017.
The 5C was a strange device which was loved and hated by Apple fans all over the place, and anyone who owned this phone will probably tell you that it was a solid, reliable handset. I remember grade 3 me wanting one so bad, and I even saved up for one, but for some reason I just bought an iPad instead. Alrighty, so now it's time to show you the unboxing, and then I'm going to be giving you my recount of using it for an entire week, and then deciding whether it's still good in 2020.
Now I'm just going to start off by saying that I bought this as brand new sealed in box from an eBay listing, but I am 99.999% sure that this is just a reseal. Like, for one, it's got this hole in the jacket protector around the box, and that is definitely not there on a brand new one. The second reason why I think this is a reseal is because on the real ones it's got this sheet over the screen that shows all the apps and the home screen, but on this one it's an aftermarket screen protector, and whoever put this on doesn't have the steadiest of hands by the looks of it, because it's pretty off-center. I don't really mind that it's a reseal, but you know, just as long as it's got all the original accessories. Alrighty, let's get to the unboxing. I've got a case here as well, but I'll unbox it afterwards. I'll just put it to the side for now. But yeah, I think you just pull this tab here. What kind of super glue do they use? Can't get this off. Oh, there we go. Pull that around, I guess. Oh, okay, we're off to a bad start here, but I've got the rest of the tape. Oh, come on, surely third time. Oh, I can't even find it now. Oh, there it is. Oh, come on, don't die on me, please. Oh. Okay, so I finally got it. I have peeked. I said a few things in the process that I can't repeat on this channel, but at least we got there in the end. So I'm guessing this lid just comes off. Yep, I'll put that to the side for now. And the phone here is cradled like a baby in this little plastic. I'll also put that to the side for now, and in the box here we've got a few pamphlets. If If I can get that up. Okay, so this all looks pretty legit. Hello, quick start guide, SIM tool. Oh, no Apple stickers, that's weird. So the remainder of the contents is this wall adapter here, the old style earphones with the actual headphone jack, simpler times, and the lightning cable to charge it with. Alrighty, so let's take a look at the actual phone. So it just sits in this plastic cradle thing here. I can't, oh, there we go. So here is the iPhone 5C in blue 32 gig. This is a really good looking phone in my opinion, and it might not have been the best, but they got the aesthetics on point. Alright, does it have any power on it? That's the real test. Huzzah! Now it also said in the listing that it had been updated to the latest OS, but if it's sealed, how is that possible? But I guess we already know that it's not sealed, so, what will it be? iOS 7 or iOS 10? Oh, look at how low quality the screen protector is. We already got bubbles coming up, and I haven't even had the box open for like 10 minutes yet. Alright, I got my SIM card in there. It's got a full battery, surprisingly. So we'll select English, Australia. Alright guys, be right back. I'm just gonna read this. Right, I've read it, and now we should be in. Oh, come on! So while we're waiting for that to happen, I'm going to quickly unbox this case here. These are the cases that Apple made for this phone, and they're really cool to be honest. They got hated on a lot, but I like them. That's just a pull tab there. Ooh. And there we are. So the case feels really nice. It's got this matte silicone feel to it, and on the inside it's felt, and it says iPhone. Looks really nice on the phone, except for that non at the bottom. Okay, it's taken about 20 minutes and one restart to get to this stage. It's nearly midnight here, so looks like I'm gonna have to bid a fond adieu to any sleep I'm gonna be getting tonight. Okay, I think we're finally getting somewhere. It finally finished doing its little updating thing. Oh yeah, we're using Siri. Okay, this is it. Yeah. Okay, so we're in and it's downloading a few apps, and it feels pretty smooth to be honest. It's got a little few knickknacks here and there, but it doesn't seem like this is going to be a problem. This feels so much better than the iPhone 4S on iOS 9, and it's almost a pleasure to use, to be honest. Alrighty, so I shall now be using this as my daily driver for the next 2 weeks. Personally, I don't think this phone will perform that well in the long run, but it'll probably just, get me by. I'm not expecting anything big from this.
Alrighty, so as of filming this video, it has been around 2 weeks since the experiment ended, and so now it's finally time to give my thoughts on using this phone for a week, 7 years later in 2020. First off, let me talk about the design of this phone. It features a 4-inch display surrounded by the 8.97mm thick plastic casing, and for some people, a baby phone like this is really appealing.
My feelings about the 4-inch display are mixed. Sure, it was really nice being able to type with one thumb or finger, and the fact that it fit in my pocket really easily was good too, but for watching videos and whatnot, the screen was just too small to get a good viewing experience. The screen resolution still does the job just fine. No, it doesn't have the sharpest color graphics, but with its 326 ppi Retina display, also seen on the standard iPhone 11, it's not a deal breaker either. Despite what people may say, this phone looks kinda dope, especially in blue. Plastic was controversial and went against everything Apple had done before, but the colors definitely work well and are very eye-catching. The lack of Touch ID and Face ID was a bummer, but by the end I had developed the muscle memory to type in my passcode without looking, so yeah, I guess I learned a new skill.
In my opinion, the iPhone 5C still looks pretty cool in 2020, but the vibrant colors won't appeal to everyone. The time has come where I have something to complain about. The battery life on this phone was just awful, and by evening it would have to go on the charger and I'd barely get a full day's use. By day 3 I would always get into the habit of turning battery saver on, and even then it wasn't really a huge improvement anyway. As mentioned earlier, this was a resealed phone, which means that the battery has probably been replaced, so I can only imagine how bad the battery life is on used models where the batteries have had time to depreciate. So if battery life is something you really care about, then don't buy the 5C in 2020. Software support is another area where this phone falls behind. iOS 10.3.3 is the last version this phone supports, and it's a significant amount behind, but it's not really ancient yet.
Everything still looks relatively modern, apart from a few tiny details, but the main worry about using older software is app support. As you probably know, apps stop supporting iOS versions once they reach a certain age because fewer people use them as time goes on. Most apps are still downloadable on iOS 10 on their latest compatible versions, which still work and get the job done. This will not always be the case, however, because as time goes on, support for these latest versions will die out eventually, but I think they should be usable for at least the next 3 years.
But if you want the latest software, this phone probably isn't your best buy. Next, let's talk about performance. The iPhone 5C uses Apple's A6 chip along with 1GB of RAM, the same specs used in the iPhone 5.
It's common knowledge that iPhones are significantly slower on their last versions, but iOS 10 was actually designed not to slow down older devices as much, like the iPhone 5, 5C, and the iPad 4th generation. That being said, this isn't a fast phone either, and if you have 2 or more apps open in the background, it's going to be fighting to keep things running smoothly, and it will lag intensively. So I had to make an effort to only have 1 app open in the background to keep the performance somewhat bearable. The camera is also an area that this phone falls behind significantly compared to newer devices. On the rear, you have an 8-megapixel shooter with no fancy features like optical image stabilization, night mode, or portrait mode. However, we do have HDR, which trust me, you're going to want to use. The overall image quality was okay for 2013, but slightly horrific for 2020 standards. I mean, it takes pictures and does the job, but not well. In good lighting, you can actually take decent shots, but if you're trying to capture things in the dark, the result won't be the one you want. The selfie camera is even worse, with a grisly 1.2 megapixels. I definitely wouldn't want to use this camera over anything except maybe like the iPad 2 or something, and I definitely wouldn't want to be posting any Instagram selfies taken by it. Not that I do that, but like, yeah, in conclusion, the front-facing camera sucks.
This video is being shot on the iPhone 5C. Video is pretty much the same, although it is capable of 1080p at 30 frames a second. Not that this is good 1080p, but it's still 1080p, so I'll give it that. The shots are washed out, and zooming in makes it a million times worse.
One thing that has aged pretty well about this phone is the price. When this phone came out, the value was terrible as it was only $100 less than the 5S, which was a far superior phone.
But now, you can pick these up on websites like Gumtree or eBay for less than $100. If you wanted to buy one of these, they go pretty cheap online.
In conclusion, using this phone in 2020 will get you from A to B. Nothing will surprise you about it or blow you away, and in many aspects, lacks features of modern phones. I mean, yeah, most things will work, but the catch is not well. So, should you buy this phone in 2020? If you're on an extreme budget, and I mean like $100 extreme, I would at least try and go for a 5S. They're priced around the same used as the iPhone 5C and offer many more features, as well as being supported all the way up to iOS 12 last year. Not to say that this is your best option and that you should really go out and buy one, because it's not your best option and there's better stuff out there. For example, the iPhone 6S and iPhone SE first generation are priced at around $150, and get this, they come with iOS 13 and according to rumors will even get iOS 14. Wowzers! If you have a 5C lying around your house, then sure, it might be of some use to you as a backup phone, or maybe something for your kid to play with, I don't know. But under pretty much no circumstances should you go out of your way and buy an iPhone 5C. And that brings my iPhone 5C 2020 overview to an end. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow my socials in the description for more tech-related content like this. Otherwise, I will point my thumb at you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.